Lead a life of entrepreneurial freedom with insights from successful creatives, entrepreneurs, and investors. Discover how they overcame challenges and turned their biggest dreams into reality. They share their personal success playbook so you can build the business and life you truly want. Welcome to Passion Millionaire, the podcast by Robert Roth. Rock and roll your dreams.
Welcome to today's episode of the Passion Millionaire Podcast. Again, super excited as usual because we have a very interesting guest here. He just shared some insider stories with me out of his life that have nothing to do even with the business. And even those are super exciting. And let's start with what he has achieved in business. He has run car dealerships in his life of business. He has built franchise operations. He has scaled a sales division from a single kiosk all the way up to a $20 million annual revenue operation. And now he ended up being an author and he's sharing his leadership expertise and helps other business owners build out the systems the right way to actually scale and get the result they want. So I'm super excited to introduce Kevin Cover. Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much, Robert, for having me on. I'm really excited to be here and spend some time with you. So I appreciate it. I guess I would get started by maybe what makes me a little different than most in terms of business. I have a 35-year career that wasn't stellar based on high school statistics. I dropped out of school after they stopped paying me to play soccer. 'Cause it wasn't for me. So, what do you do when you're 21, 22 years old and don't have a lot of options? You sell. So started out selling cars and that it's the stereotypes are often right in that business. So I had to try and find a way to succeed and still be able to put my head on a pillow at night and be the person that I want to be in life and report to myself at the end of the day. So, that's kind of the base of the journey. I didn't have a lot of mentors. I didn't have anybody, really giving me the ropes. Everything I really developed, or the majority of what I developed and I built and what I believe in, is just it's pattern and rhythm and just recognition on how people move in between the words and, the indirect, subtle things that people will give you to let you know how to lead them best. And what I found is that what transfers, what works in sales works in leadership, and what works in leadership and what works in sales. So I come from. Go ahead, sorry.
Makes sense to me because what it does also, it makes it measurable, right? I mean, sales, you will know the numbers at the end of the day, right? Did they go up? Awesome. Did they go up by a lot? Even better. If no, not good. So therefore, let's dig into some of your history, right? I mean, when you're saying you have run car dealerships, I mean, it's not one, but you have run multiple. So how did that go? You just said how you ended up in selling cars, right? That's just how you started your career, basically. But then it's a different thing to sell cars, right? As a salesman, that's how you started out. But how did that go to take over a car dealership? And then how did you get to the next one? Let us know how this went. And also maybe if you want to share some numbers, I mean, I'm assuming you have grown those as well.
Yeah, for sure. Everything that I've gotten through and gotten to is organic and referral based. It's, I've never applied for a job, and I don't even like jobs, but that's a different story. But just success, early success led to opportunities as sales management, and I got an opportunity to run a prestigious dealership in Greenwich, Connecticut, when I was 27. So, it's interesting how people think, and especially people that have been doing it a long time, how they look, what lens they look under, and how they approach things. So, just simple things moving into the dealership, like I incorporated a 3-ring rule. If it rings the 4th time, Kevin picks up the phone. I'm going to sell the car instead of you, and I'm not going to pay you commission. Just instead of saying the words, teaching them how to teach you and how to work with you. So things like that. And, we quickly doubled the business from 30 cars a month to 60 cars a month. It didn't take more than 2 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was quick. And just really what I would say, common sense, obvious things. And most of what I would ever say on this meeting or in a book or anything else,
Hmm.
there's nothing revolutionary there. It's really just putting things together in a fashion that's designed to be a wave instead of a ladder. It never ends. And the second you stop, then you're doomed. So that's how I got into the general manager position at 27, working with people twice my age, and also
Okay.
really, it also really framed how I work with people, because when you're young, you can't tell people that have been doing it for 20 years, I know better, do it like me. It just
Right.
doesn't work. You have to
Tricky.
know them, and you have to be humble and approachable and a listener, and not try and be the smartest person in the room. Try and establish yourself as a leader that wants to listen and learn from other people as well.
How did you do that?
Well, again, it goes back to being so young in a field where people were really seasoned. I learned really quickly that my words didn't carry much weight, but my actions did.
Hmm.
Success breeds success, and when people see something work and you show them, I'd say the approach would be teach them how to do it, show them how to do it, watch them do it, and then praise and redirect. If you're a leader that's not willing to show,
Yep.
especially a younger leader, you don't have a lot of chance, because you don't have that history to draw on and say, look, I've done this before.
Hmm. Yeah, makes total sense. So, and do you have an example that, like, literally exactly out of this situation when you had people twice as old? There, you're 27, and then you are actually showing them certain things. Like, what type of things would that have been?
Well, I called it stacking. So it was really just organizing your day
Hmm.
and following a certain cadence and rhythm to how you deal with people from the front to the back. Um, Specifically, working with the service department and connecting, because service and sales don't always get along, especially in the car business. It's so close, and bridging that gap and being there every day, uh, creating systems that are very predictable. So
Hmm.
an example would be, I had a salesperson come in there, and he wanted to push through a sale that was not necessarily would be approved ethically by the Acura standards. And I told him no. And he said, I've been doing this, something to the effect of, I've been doing this since you were in diapers, kid, and this is the way business is done. And he wasn't
Uh-huh.
wrong. He couldn't say that now, but he could say then. So I said no to the deal, and that it was my name on the sign at that point. And
Yep.
if it went bad, it was going to come back on me. And lo
Hmm.
and behold, 2 weeks later or so, another dealer got in trouble for doing the same exact thing, and that brought him into the office with just a little kind of head nod and acknowledgement that, hey, you know what, you're okay, kid.
Wow. I believe that's probably one of the most important things you could ever do, especially in sales, because, and then on top, it's car salesmen. They have this yeah, reputation. And
Yeah,
if you stand on the right side of things, I believe that goes a very long way. And if you build that reputation as being different, especially in that market, I mean, maybe things have changed, but I heard words like that. So I believe that was a great move. So, and I'd be curious, so build car dealerships. So that was the first one still you were in, or was that already, okay. And then how did that go in the first one? Was that your top position there, or did you, I don't know, become an owner, or how did that go before you switched to the second one?
yeah, it really just ran its course, and I really enjoyed it. But I wanted something bigger and better, and I was, barely 30 years old and looking forward, and getting ready to start my family. And I just, at that point, I wanted control. I didn't leave because I didn't like it. I left,
Mhm.
I guess, because of income potential, but less so. I wanted to control my time and my life. I wanted to be there for every step of my kids growing up, and
Mhm.
my own personal time I value a lot. I work hard, but I like to work on my pace and when I want to be working, so I don't miss any of the things that I really want to be attached to. So it forced me out of it into
Yep.
more of an entrepreneurial field just being in franchises. So that was when I switched into my franchise operation.
Okay. And what did you do in franchising then?
The company's name is Direct Buy. It had a really amazing run in the early 2000s. It was a home buying club where you could buy everything at manufacturer's cost and you paid a membership up front. Really tough business. It was a direct sales business where they came in the door, you showed them around, you did a presentation, and they either bought or not in an hour and a half, and they weren't allowed to come back if they didn't buy. So, tough business, and a $5,000 product in the early 2000s on trust, really, and that was quite a business. It was a business in a box. They wrote everything for you, they scripted it for you, but I'm not really built from just follow other people's words. So I tweaked and I did some things on my own with approval. And I was fortunate to have the number 1, 5, and 6 location out of 166 for a 5-year stretch. And
you basically built that from 0 customers because you just took the recipe and then run with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. How long did that take? And what was the rough revenue to get an idea about it as well? But also congratulations.
Thank you. It was it took less than 3 months to get the first one up and running to where I wanted it. I brought people from the car business that I had worked with that did things the right way, so they already knew how I worked, and we had that first location at 200 new members a month at 5,000. So it was that's a nice little monthly business.
So you basically instantly built a sales team versus just you going out and selling this thing. Okay.
Yeah. So
smart move. Like it.
Yeah, we added up to $10 million, and then I expanded into New York City from Brooklyn and Queens, and then we expanded into Southern Boston, and that's where I really started to realize that being the driving force every day was not going to work, because I couldn't be in 3 buildings. That was a business. It's self-employed instead of business ownership. You were in there, you're the presenter, you dropped the hammer, you did everything all day, and it was exhausting. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that part. So that's where I started to say, all right, well, what makes this work, and how do I blueprint it and create it and empower others to really expand and give them leadership and listen. And, that's where the process really, really started to build. In my book, I have origin stories, which are, all of the stories that kind of led my thought process. And then on the back end is just, well, what they turned into and how they interact and work together. So that was the time where it was like, wow, you can't be a hero if you want to scale. You need to scale it with rhythm.
Interesting. And I'm still not sure if I understood the product. Like, people paid $5,000, and what did they get in return for it?
Access to, at the top, I think it was about 800 manufacturers, for anywhere from appliances to kitchen cabinets, all home remodeling, things that you could possibly imagine, things for the home, and you would not pay the store markup. So in paying a markup every time, you paid once, and you could save on furniture 40-50%, electronics maybe 10 or 15%.
Oh wow!
Full remodel kitchens, sometimes half. So it was really, in the early 2000s, it was a great time for that business because booming. Yeah.
It sounds like a great offer as well, though, for the right buyer. And that was probably business owners in home services, I'm assuming.
It was all for personal use. So we didn't sell
personal use.
Yeah, it was just homeowners, and you bring up a good point. And that's where selling to the right people and with authenticity is a better business model than trying to just sell everybody. That's, to me, that's what you lose reputation and you're done for, and it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more. So that's also a big learning that you made back then, or is that a learning that you already made earlier?
No, that was my first opportunity where I was not just the person in the building.
Mm-hmm.
At 3 different locations, really nurturing leaders of their own and building a model where I could follow, a nice CRM model before there were CRM models really available,
Yeah.
and just tracking through spreadsheets how everything's going and reporting if certain numbers drop to a certain point where they'd have to call and really go through and, kind of
Mm-hmm.
move a little bit. The coolest thing was, it was probably 2 years in where it was going well, but I was still a little nervous, and I went away for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came back into the home business, which is where the call center, we set the appointments up, and the big one, the Brooklyn and Queens location that was selling 200 a month, I walked in and it was like a symphony. Everything was humming and everything was just moving along, and I
Mm-hmm.
I almost fell over, and that's yeah. I was like, I really that my goal should be to be unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I can scale. If they don't need me every day, and
Mm-hmm.
it's an aspirational goal, and I don't know that anyone could say they ever can just step away from something that they value, but not feeling like I needed to micromanage every decision, and
Yeah.
and I tested it a bunch from there, and the process they were really working. So that was my first position of scale, where I started to scale something out to
Mm-hmm.
more than just one building.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds really awesome. Also, I'd be curious, like when you said you have literally brought this to about 10 million a year pretty quickly. How big was your sales team then that you started out with?
It's that this I broke the model right off the bat. It
Yep.
goes everything. I feel that the model was where a salesperson essentially did everything. They got
Yep.
up, they hit the phones, they made their appointments, they set up their presentation times. They came in, they'd be involved in the presentations, they'd be involved in the close. And I looked at it and I said, who's good at everything? Number
Yeah.
one, not
Mm-hmm.
nobody. If I had to be on the phone for a living, then the business would go out of business. And I recognize. So you find yourself grading people on a curve. They're
Mm-hmm.
on a GPA. They're a B on the phones. They're an A closer. They're a C on follow up, and
Mm-hmm.
it didn't make sense. So I worked out with the vice president of sales in the business to split it into more of an assembly line model, where I would have a call center dedicated to just setting appointments, a specific cadence on when they called, and the words were 90% verbatim, just to get people curious enough to come in. And then the salespeople were the A salespeople that could really start and take their time and do things the right way. And, they really knew how to run their business. And that was one of the key things in expanding as well, is, and anything I've worked on since is making sure that you don't create that hero mentality where you're relying on 2 or 3 people,
Yep.
and then they know they have you over a barrel, and they're telling you what to do and how you should do it. So creating systems and responsibilities that highlight people's strengths and really that gap from your top performers and your bottom performers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes total sense. Wow, thanks for sharing this with us. Super, super interesting learning. And I'd be curious, is that the business that you have scaled up to $20 million in revenue per year?
Oh yeah, it was more than that. So at the height, it was 400 to it was about 25 million a year. Yeah,
Wow. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, and how long did it take you to get it to that point to make 25 million?
about 4 years.
About 4 years. Wow.
Right
I
before the third one was open and humming. So
yep.
that what they would say in franchise that franchise business is, how do you know if a failing owner? They open
Mm-hmm.
they open a second franchise,
I
because
hear you.
they didn't believe that you could scale,
Yeah.
because you be the driving force. So getting approval took a lot of time, and then showing them and demonstrating that
Yep.
our systems had the ability to scale really put me in a position to succeed there.
Yeah. Wow. Quite inspiring. And also, I mean, if I heard that correctly, that was even a product that was a one-time sale and there was no recurring revenue in there, or was there?
After 3 years, there was a minor renewal. It
Mhm.
was $100 a year optional after 3 years, but no,
Yeah. Wow.
the business was every month you need to
Find
cover
new
up
business.
in the showroom, and your service team, and the
Yep.
warehouse, and all that stuff. So it was
Yeah.
yeah, it was a lot of pressure, but pressure in a fun way.
yeah, which it's much harder to do that versus selling, for example, an agency service where every customer pays whatever $5,000 a month, right? So that scales much better, obviously. Therefore, I mean, I just want to point that out how, yeah, what a huge achievement this really is that you have managed to work out there, and especially how quickly you scaled that. And what did you do with that business? Like, did you sell that business? Are you still in it, or did somebody take it over? What happened to that?
2008 did that business. So being in the
Oh,
whole modeling business and having a
okay.
crisis,
Yeah.
you know, it ripped through the entire organization, and the model's not even around anymore. Partially because it just didn't
Okay.
recover. Partially because of what you said. It's
Yep.
selling to the right customers, and when you have a franchise and they're paying attention to their bottom line, some people will grab that money regardless of whether it's the right customer or not,
Hmm.
and that can damage an entire business and the reputation of the whole company. So
Hmm.
it's my career is a lot of restarts. So 2012, I left that and I restarted it, in the vacation business after that.
Interesting. A vacation business. What did you do? Let us know a little bit about that before we also want to know a bit more about your book that you've written, which is about all of those experiences. So, and what was that vacation business about that?
Well, I took the direct buy model, and I had an acquaintance that was the president at a really big travel agency, for lack of a better word. They book travel for American Express and cruises, and I wrote them. I said, hey, why don't we take this and build out a vacation membership business? So I
Hmm.
just really took what I had learned at Direct Buy, and I started with one location, and by the time we were done, we were in New York, a few, in New Jersey, a few, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and California. So we had 6 or 7 locations with operations. We were in Sears stores, if you could believe it. That's where we were generating businesses for vacations. It was a
Okay.
crazy thing, and that was
So that's
stopping.
what that was brick and mortar. So you had some type of small office, or how did it go?
We marketed in Sears and sold in some of the Sears stores, and then we just
Okay.
rented hotels in the area, and we
Yep.
invited. And so we became permanent residents in hotel meeting rooms, where
Mhm.
we would be there 5 days a week. Tuesday through Sunday or Tuesday through Saturday, and we would give them the presentation. It
Yep.
wasn't as hardcore a direct sale where they couldn't come back, but the enticement would be a big discount to join today versus coming back at a later time. So
Yep.
we scaled that one. You know, the interesting part of that business was not the sales. It acted predictably in the same flow that the other business, the direct buy, did. The interesting part of that was the lead generation business.
Mhm.
They We started like all these other companies in the giveaway. Now, if you see solar in one of the stores where they approach you and then they try and
Mhm.
get you to give the information and they hit you over the head. And we started doing it really is tough. We we started doing it that way, and we could get plenty of people to give us their name, but it was so strange how they just didn't pick up the phone or respond when we started to market,
Okay. Yeah.
because it was terrible. So there was a specific day
Hmm.
where I happened to be in a store, and I stopped everyone and I said, we are not marketing today. All we're going to do is help customers shop. We're going to become the best employees that Sears doesn't pay for.
Hmm.
And within, after the blank stares and the, what is that? What do you mean? Within two
What did you
hours,
mean?
well, it's serve first, you
Yep.
know, and not, reciprocity is one of my most important beliefs. And it's one of the most important laws in my book. And people, I think in sales, especially, or a lot of business, they mistake reciprocity as I give you a little trinket and then I can buy your time.
Hmm.
And that doesn't work. True reciprocity is give first.
Hmm.
It's really genuinely showing interest and trying to be helpful. And
Yep.
that gives you license to where a lot of times they'll ask you, so what is it that you offer? What is it that you do? Or you've earned the right to at least ask a question. But for me to walk up to you, Robert, in a store and say, hey, do you like to vacation? It's like, well, I'm buying a battery. Why would I be looking to vacation versus,
Right.
hey, let's see what the batteries are, spend some time
Yep.
with you, a little bit about you and your family and your likes. And then I can ask, and I have the right to ask. And then you can say no or yes, and we can build a relationship from there. So that was a business changing operation. Our costs went way down per presentation. Our close rate went way up in sales. Our retention rate went through the roof, and our reputation kept improving. And like I said, we ended up in 4 states with 6 or 7 locations and 100 plus employees.
Wow.
Yeah, and that all happened in maybe 4 years, something like that.
4 years. And revenue wise, how big was that? I mean, 100 employees, that's quite a quite a team.
Yeah, that was closing in on $100 million annual revenue by the time I was done with it. Yeah,
Wow.
and then they sold the business.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then were you part of the owners of the ownership, and you made some money at the sell as well, or?
I was straight salary, and I didn't have any points when they sold the business for several hundreds of millions of dollars.
Wow.
Shame on me for
Learning
that.
for the next business.
Yeah.
Wow.
The crazy thing about that is I was 2 for 2 because that business ended up getting torn down in 2020 for a very specific reason.
Okay.
COVID.
Yeah.
So
Things happen on this planet. That's crazy.
yeah, it makes you start to wonder about yourself. Like, what did I do? I broke down home remodeling, then I tore down vacationing. What's going on here?
Yeah. Wow. And before we dig into the book, there's one more thing I need to touch on with you real quick. I mean, you've told me you won a world championship, which is kind of another crazy achievement after all the business achievements that you had. Especially, I hear like you seem to be an absolute master when it comes to sales, and then also turning sales into leadership and leadership systems, which is your book about, which your book is all about. Therefore, but you won a world championship in poker. Was it 2006? And how did that story go? That's fantastic.
Yeah, that was a fun couple of days. I'm not really a poker player. At the time we were playing once a month at my house with some friends that were more serious, and they said, "Hey, let's go out to Vegas," and they talked me into it. It was a $1,500 buy-in, and I had a really, really good first day. I was just having a bunch of fun, and things were just going well. And I made it to the second day with 20 players. At mid-afternoon, we were down to 10, including me, the final table, and they broke for lunch. So there's two fun and interesting parts of the story. Besides, hey, winning a World Series of Poker bracelet, that's a pretty fun story. But within the story, and it applies to everything I think in leadership.
Yeah.
And I invited the entire table out to lunch on break, and 8 out of 9 people came.
Okay.
And we sat at lunch, and I just asked them questions, and I watched their movements and showed interest in. I was generally interested. I mean, these are guys that play for a living mostly, and I'm just some guy from New York that flew out for a few laughs. So we had an hour and a half, and when I got back and we sat back at the table, they changed the way they played with me.
Interesting.
How? Their moves and their subtleties and the way they spoke were so much more transparent, and it was easy to pick up the cues on what they were actually thinking.
Interesting.
And it goes back to reciprocity. They were giving back without even knowing it. And I slowly picked them off one at a time, or the table, they lost one at a time. And the only person left at the end was the person that said no and didn't come to lunch. So,
wow.
Yeah, crazy, right? Yeah. So the other fun part of the story is, we break for the last table. We have almost the same amount of chips. And there's an expression in poker called playing blind, which if you're not a poker player, what that means is you don't look at your cards. So I came back from the bathroom. The guy's a 30-year pro, and I'm saying there's no possible way I'm going to beat this guy.
Mhm.
So I decided to try and break his rhythm.
So you played blind.
I played
Yeah.
blind, and
Like
he
only one time, one hand, or you did that consecutively for several?
it only took two hands to win the whole tournament. The, the first hand I raised, and he folded and just
Yep.
looked perplexed because my cards were out to the right, and it was so obvious. The dealer was
Yep.
like, "Ev, you're not going to look at your cards?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they're fine." And then I did it again the second hand, and after the first three cards came out, he went all in.
Uh-huh.
I peeked at my cards. I called him. I had a monster hand, and it was over in two hands.
What a
And
story.
yeah, it was something, and it was really just an exercise in just how reciprocity really works no matter where you go, and genuine interest, and showing genuine interest, and really having genuine interest is really important in all
Yeah.
leadership
And,
and life. If you don't have that, it's tough to create
yeah.
clarity and momentum and all the things that matter.
Couldn't
And
agree more.
the other is just when you don't think you're the winner of people, you need to break rhythm. You have to either create rhythm or break rhythm to succeed.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
when you're the underdog, you better be breaking rhythm, because you're not gonna win any other way.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And for everybody who doesn't know World Series of Poker and what that means, I mean, if you win this bracelet, that's basically the prize. So there's no trophy, or that's the trophy basically. And then there's also money, right? I mean, that's why people do that as well. And now those prizes are millions of dollars if you win those. I mean, there's different types of poker games and tournaments and all of that. But back then, that was 2006. Like, what was the prize that you won? Because I would say that's pretty substantial.
Yeah, well, it wasn't the main event; it was a two-a-day event, but it was a
Mhm.
little short of $200,000. And
Yeah, it's a big deal to play a
yeah,
tournament 2 days. They come
yeah,
out with about $200,000. Not bad. And you had only put in, what was that, 1,500?
yeah,
I mean, quite a return.
yeah. Well, the cool thing, and gosh, this is not even part of what we were talking about, but it's just such a fun remembrance. I was able to give two people with me. I gave them each $30,000, and one started his veterinarian business, and the other
Whoa.
bought his first house. So it really expanded past just a fun 2 days. So it was, that was quite an event, and also a lesson
Wow.
that everything ties together. Everything you think ties together, and how you move and react and
Yep.
succeed. So
Yeah.
good.
Wow. That's awesome. I'm super excited for you that happened in your life. I'm a fan of that. So let us know, what is the book about? Because what I understand, it's all about leadership, right? And building systems the right way. And you have a very specific way of doing that, and you call that the rhythm way. So explain that to us.
Yeah, sure. So all of my career and stories, and just following patterns and recognition and rhythm, started to build in an unorganized way in my head. And as I got into direct buy and had the scale, and then moved into the vacation business, and my last career was, or last job was, in a publicly traded trade school environment where we had 15 campuses, and we had 12 or more areas of study, with new classes starting every 3 weeks, and 100 plus admissions people, and another 50 in the call center. It was taking that and say, you know what, this needs to be organized, or else I'll never be able to keep growing and expanding, and not be a slave to the business, which was equally important to me. And it's tough in a publicly traded company. And I guess I read something online yesterday. It was like, if you're not willing to do what the other 99% won't, you won't have a chance. And to me, that always sounds like first in the office, last out of the office. And that's just not how I'm built. It doesn't mean I'm not willing to work hard,
Mhm.
but it's not a lifestyle. So if I'm not building and growing and building systems, then I'm failing. So that forced me into really putting it on paper and saying, well, what are the building blocks? And the key to me was really realizing that it's not what I think most people think that it's not a ladder. You don't climb to the top and succeed and put your hand up in the air like Rocky and say, I did it. It, if you're not aware then of all the steps and the constant things that you need to do to be successful, then, I write my laws, or the 6 laws on how to lead, in reverse, because what inevitably you start with is collapse. And I would imagine you've been there and where it's like, what happened? Because collapse is not, it never worked. Collapse is, it was working really well and something went wrong. And, I think most leaders can identify that, where they thought they had it figured out. And I've been the victim of that, where I stopped doing the things every day and the exact process and touch. And it, collapse, it'll whisper before it yells. You just start to see little kinks and it holds up, and, it follows a predictive path where all of a sudden you fall off a cliff and you don't know what. So, that's the title, The Rhythm Wave, because the 6 laws are a wave. They interact with each other. And if you don't follow them in order, then you're really not going to do it. And, if I don't know how much time we have.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So this goes back to when I started the car business. Law what I call ICE, which is probably not a great word these days. ICE, we'll call it. Influence, empathy, which is an operating system that builds like, trust, and understand. If you don't have like, trust, and understand, you don't have success, because it will on you. It has to be the foundation of everything. So in the book, I have what I call the golden retriever time, where when I got to sales, my job was to be liked in my mind. And I was running through rain to get cars, and, finding the coldest drink in the back for the customers. And I achieved like really well. The problem was no one bought from me. So there was a time only a couple of months into working there where I was walking a customer to a test drive, 2 customers, and my shoe was untied.
Okay.
I bent down to tie my shoe, and they stopped and they waited, and they bought the car. 3 or 4 days later, just by coincidence, I guess I'm not, I don't tie my shoes very well. I had the same issue. So I dropped down to one knee, tied my shoe, and they kept walking to the car. And I guess it's not a big surprise to say they didn't buy the car from me. And that was really my first understanding of trust. And how do you move from being liked to being trusted, from being a salesman that's being annoying to a consultant that really is there. And I started to really hyper focus on what triggers make that happen, and what are the tells that my team trust. Now my teams trust me, or my kids trust me, or if anyone I'm interacting, just finding that spot where I've gotten past that. Well, maybe a couple of jokes, they're mine are dad jokes, so they're not even funny anyway. But moving into trust and building that. So that's the foundation for everything I believe. And I have something else that's called the boxes of law.
Okay, and what is that?
It means that it's operational or sales or business. It means that every objection that I've ever heard of falls into one of 4 boxes. So rather than, and this came from just being confused and not understanding specifically why people weren't buying or joining or responding the right way in meetings. And so they, it formats into simply, first, have you established value? So do they think you or your product are worth following, and you're worth more than another opportunity? The next is need. Could be fine, could be plenty of value, but do they actually need it? Do they need the job? Do they need your path? Do they follow the vision, or is there another option that's better up that fulfills the same? The next is a big one in our business, or most businesses in general. Are you actually talking to the decision makers?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, in my experience, people don't realize until they're heavily vested in their conversation that they're not even talking to the right person.
Yeah,
or
that's bad. Waste of time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's so tough to go back from that. And then you could be worth it and they could need it, but can they afford it? Can they? So when I started new businesses, can those people afford to take a leap of faith on me that I can lead them somewhere better? In a product, can Can they afford the payments? So again, to me, that's how they all interact, whether it's leadership or sales or really anything else is, it's at the end of the day, it's all the same and how you communicate. And it's really easy to train
Uh-huh.
because it's just a matter of asking questions. Rob, you speak your mind for 3 or 4 minutes, and then
Yep.
I just politely rephrased him for understanding. Rob, if I understand what I think you're saying is, you like me, just not that way. So whatever it is, and just helps put it into one of those boxes, and I can really isolate that and make sure I'm consulting and helping you the right way to get to the right decision for you.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, well, very interesting. So there's a lot of basically what I'm understanding, to actually use exactly what you just said right there. What I'm understanding, there's a lot of psychology behind what you're doing. And I mean, that all comes out of experience that you have collected in all those sales related jobs, and as well businesses and business systems that you have built. And
Yep.
therefore you have kind of figured your own systems, packed them all into this book, and they all work. They are proven to work, and they have literally made millions of dollars for you, and even won your bracelet at the World Championship of Poker.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
therefore, all of that people can now find in your book, The Rhythm Wave. So what is the best place to actually find the book or even get in contact with you?
So the book is on Amazon. It just came out last week, and I was incredibly humbled and amazed that it became a top #1 new release in business books in the first 3 days. So
Wow.
that was really cool, and that was just from beta readers that spread the word and got it out there. And so, hoping to build that, even though I never intended to write a book while I was writing it, it just organically happened, and I just followed it. And me personally, Kevin Cover on LinkedIn, or you can look at the Rhythm Leadership Group on LinkedIn, and, happy to talk to anybody about business, and, for free, because I love hearing people's stories and what they're doing. And, if I can lend a hand, then great. And if they can buy a book, then that's good for me.
Super exciting. Kevin Cover, thanks
Yes.
for the interview.
Robert, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed the time.
Likewise.
Have a great one.
Go to rockandrollyourdreams.com/podcast.